What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome back to my unit review series for Fire Emblem Heroes. And today I'm going to be taking a look at Groom Hinata, which you could get from Tempest Trial. And these are the topics I'm going to be talking about in this video. So you could check out timestamps to this in the description right below that like button. And with that said, let us begin.
Lord Takami's the one who should be wearing these clothes.
Groom Hinata is an axe infantry unit with pretty high defense and high HP and a good attack stat. However, he has got really middling speed and resistance, which can be really troublesome. And his BST is 172, which means that after the first merge, he can reach 175 BST, which is really good for arena usage. His weapon is Huge Fan Plus, which is a 14 might axe that grants you +4 attack and +4 defense during the combat, and special cooldown charge +1 per foe's attack during the combat if you have got any kind of visible buff or any kind of positive status effect on your unit. So basically this weapon can give you extra attack and defense and special cooldown on the enemy's hit. Now there has been a bit of confusion among people regarding this weapon. So for example, this exactly works like Owain's Mistletoe effect, Ringcast Club, and also Weighted Lance Weapon Refine, which Gwendolyn recently had. So this gives you special cooldown on foes every hit, and he has got attack defense bond as a slotted skill. I wish he came with something else because we already have this on Rudger. His slotted skill is Close Guard, which is already present on Death Knight, so I wish he came with like an Oath skill or something, which would have synergized pretty well with his weapon. So Hinata is a pretty great axe infantry unit, and the two most apt comparison to him is Echidna and Ross. So even though Hinata is pretty good unit on his own, these two units who are his fierce competitors just beat him to the ground when it comes to the comparison and how well they perform. So here you can see the stat spread of these three units. I would say that Hinata is basically like Ross, but Ross has got way more speed, so that could actually be worked out. And he also has better resistance, not to mention he has got Super Boon and HP attack and resistance, which is really good. Echidna doesn't have that much defense as Hinata, but she has got the speed, which can be really effective with some of the builds. And she also has way more resistance, which can be really useful in something like Ether Raids and in general for tanking mages and dragons. So as you can see here, Hinata requires Grails, and these two units who are present in 3-star, 4-star pool do not, and can just perform pretty similarly to Hinata in this axe infantry role, and most of the time just outperform him because they have access to IVs, whereas Hinata doesn't. I feel like more people are gonna be foddering him off for his weapon than using him as a unit, because his weapon is incredibly good, inheritable weapon. So as I said before, this weapon can give you the special cooldown. This doesn't only work with visible buffs, that's obviously the easiest way to activate this weapon, but there are other ways like this with positive status effects like mobility increase from Legendary Azura and Armor March. Armor March is really good if you run this weapon on an armor unit. They're gonna be having this active all the time. And orders buff from stuff like air orders, ground orders, and of course peonies. Gentle Dream buff can also help you activate this effect. Naga's Divine Fang, if you do run him in Astro Season, is going to be helping. Duo Mikaya's Dominance is also a positive effect, along with bonus doubler effect from Duo Marth, Legendary Eliwood, and of course Spring Eden's Duo skill. So while this effect can be a bit annoying when you're going to be facing panic manners and panic units and panic skills in general, you could still have this effect activated on your unit if you have any other positive status on them. Even if you get panicked, you're still going to be able to get the special cooldown, which is the most important part out of this weapon. So this weapon, as I said, is a really good inheritable weapon, and this is mostly really good on slow units because you want to take more hits from the foes. So being slow and getting doubled is actually a good thing because you get more special charges. And on fast units, I feel like it's harder to justify this because Slaying Axe could also be run, and it can many times just fulfill the same role. However, many units do appreciate the extra attack and defense buff which this weapon can give. So once again, this weapon can provide something extra if you're comparing it to Slaying Axe. I'm going to be going over some of the example of units that could use this weapon really well. The first unit that comes to mind is Flame Emperor. So Flame Emperor is a really good unit to be used in arena, and these are just some arena builds. So Huge Fan Plus could be used with Vengeful Fighter, of course, and can also be used with Weary Fighter and Ruptured Sky so that you can instantly retaliate back with Ruptured Sky while also having Weary Fighter so that you do not get doubled. So this kind of build can be really useful for one-shotting many threats that could annoy Flame Emperor. And you could also run this with Vengeful Fighter and Ruptured Sky so that you could have double Ruptured Sky in a single round of combat in the enemy phase, and that's of course going to be pretty powerful against many threats. As I said, the competitors of Hinata are going to be present, and you could definitely fodder them up for these units. So Echidna could run a build like this, and Echidna can be immune to Panic Manner if you do use her with the HP seal. She does have pretty good speed set to use Close Call or Repel, and she can basically just use Noontime with this weapon and retaliate instantly with Huge Fan. Of course, this doesn't really work if you already use her with someone like Brave Lucina. In that case, Huge Fan Plus isn't really going to be doing much, and you can just run Slaying Axe and Soul. So that's definitely a point to be noted. If you use Brave Lucina with a tank like this, then you don't really require this weapon. Ross could of course run a build like this for Arena so that he could retaliate back with Ruptured Sky, and he can of course take care of Legendary Chrom, Legendary Leaf, Legendary Azera, stuff like that in the water season. And because Echidna's speed is so good, she can always run Null Follow-Up and have Blue Flame, so she could basically trigger this in a single round of combat. Obviously could run Slaying Axe, but as I said, the extra attack and defense is going to be appreciated. A really good thing about Huge Fan is that it can be inherited to cavalry and flying units. They don't really have access to the greatest special acceleration skills. The only option they have got is Heavy Blade. They do not even have access to Flashing Blade. So really slow units like Har and Narcine can definitely make use of this. So Har can just be a full physical tank with this weapon. You could also run this on Gunter because his weapon refine doesn't really do too much to him as a unit. It's just a support weapon refine. Same goes for Narcine. Like Narcine desperately needs some damage output, so you could trigger Moonbow twice in a single round of combat if he gets doubled. You could run Ignis on Har and Gunter, but Ether is really good for self-sufficiency, and there's really no other way for them to trigger Ether in a single round of combat without any kind of support, just on their own. So that's definitely useful on these kinds of units.
Guess I better do this!
Let's start with some of the budget builds for him. The first build is for Tempest Trials. So the Tempest Trial is going on right now, and he can be a pretty nice auto battle unit because he can be really bulky. And you can just run Renewal as a slot B skill, Quick Riposte, and Ignis of course. Ignis is going to be giving you insane amounts of damage output, and Swap can just make sure that he can activate his Bond skill really consistently. And the second build is just using double bonds, and this is a really cheap build that could be pretty effective, could be used in something like Arena Assault. And the third build is using a Link skill. So Link skills do have pretty good synergy with his Huge Fan Plus because it does work on buffs, and he could just buff himself up and activate his weapon. You could also run this with Guard and just prevent the enemy from charging their special, and Ether can of course be used with this kind of weapon so that he can stay in the range of Guard and Quick Riposte. And now we move on to a bit more expensive builds. So Special Spiral can be run in slot B with Ignis so that he can instantly retaliate back with Ignis thanks to his weapon, and that Ignis is going to be doing a lot of damage. It's going to be really devastating. And you could also run the same thing with Bonfire. So Time Pulse can be used with this weapon to make any kind of 3-turn cooldown special into a 2-turn cooldown, and then you can instantly retaliate back with it. So this can do a lot of damage because of his incredibly high defense. Now we move on to even more expensive builds. So Guard Axe can be a really nice thing because tanky units like these do appreciate the fact that their opponents are not going to be charging up their specials, and Guard Axe doesn't have any threshold condition unlike the Guard skill. So you could just run this with Fortress Defense Res and make him a melee specialist. You could also make him into a physical specialist with Distant Foil. He's definitely one of the better users of it because his resistance is quite low, and he can just delete archers with Bonfire. Once again, we're using Time Pulse with Bonfire for the instant retaliation. And if you do build up Hinata to +10, you could definitely try him in Ether raids. The thing with Hinata is that he's got really high HP, but you still need to patch up his resistance, so he could be run in Light Season with triple mythic units with 2 Airs and 1 Peony, and just any bonus units, I guess, in the last slot. So this kind of Hinata can recover a lot of HP with Noontime and Mystic Boost. Because we're running triple mythics, you don't really have a room to run someone like Brave Lucina, so his weapon can be extremely useful here. And he can reach a pretty decent amount of resistance to be a nice super tank. And because of his high HP, he can of course avoid the Panic Manner, which is really fantastic with this weapon's effect. And now we take a look at some of the arena builds. As I said, he can be used as a score stick because of his 175 BST after the first merge, so a lot of people might be building him for that. The first build is with Mirror Stance 3, so having the guard effect on the stance skill is extremely good for a tank, and you're going to be facing a lot of dragons and stuff like that in Arena, so patching up his resistance can be really helpful to you because these dragons are extremely powerful. So he can reach decent amount of resistance with this at 36, and you could of course buff it up with a rally skill. Now keep in mind, he's going to be requiring a 300 SP skill in slot C to have the max score, and these joint buffing skills are going to be really good with his weapons effect because he could just have this effect right off the bat at start of the turn without any kind of unit like rallying him or anything like that. And of course, because of his high HP, he can use Panic Ploy. You could also use the same build which I showed on Ross, but on Hinata with Ruptured Sky, Lull Attack Defense. So this allows you to destroy stuff like Legendary Crom, Legendary Alm, Legendary Leaf, all of those really annoying units, and his high defense is going to be pretty helpful, and Ruptured Sky does give you a really nice damage output, not to mention it can be pretty useful against dragons. And you could just run him with Slaying Hammer because there are quite a bit of armor units in Arena, and he does have a pretty good attack stat and pretty good defense, so you could definitely run a build like this with Death Blow 4.
This I vow!
Hinata is going to be requiring you 2,700 Grails to plus 10 merge him, and as I said, he's useful for arena scoring, being a 175 BST unit after the first merge. He does have good attack stat with high HP and defense, which does make him a pretty good tank overall, but there are way more reasons why you may not want to invest into him. The first and the biggest one is that Echidna and Ross take no Grails to plus and merge, and they can perform similarly or even better most of the time because of having IVs, as I said. So Grails are really valuable, so it's better spent on a unique unit who does have a preferred weapon or at least can score higher, someone like Flame Emperor, because if you're looking for a score stick, then Flame Emperor takes less Grails to do that because of being a Grand Hero Battle unit, and he doesn't have a preferred weapon and probably will never get one. So for max arena score, you will need a 300 SP slot C skill, which is pretty expensive, and just waiting for a better unit who can reach 175 BST and who might have a preferred weapon is probably better and cheaper if you just want to use him as a score stick, in my opinion. So Hinata is a good unit, but as I said, the competition is extremely fierce, and the fact that he's a Tempest Trial unit requiring that much Grails does make him a very costly investment to do. So that is going to be it for this review. I hope you guys enjoyed. I want to thank all of my YouTube members for their support. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment, helps me tremendously, and share this video with your friends who are thinking of building up Hinata, and make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Hinata once he finds out that so many people are going to be following him off for his weapon. So with that being said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.